So everybody likes to say, I want to know how to draw, which is actually takes a while to kind of get off of that. What I try to do nowadays is I say to myself, I want to be a person who draws a lot and really enjoys it. So it's very different from saying, I want to know how to draw. That's the prevailing thing that people say. That's what I say in the beginning. Now I say to myself, I want to be a person who draws a lot and really, really enjoys it. So that's pretty much. Ooh, got some policemen outside. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, it's the Wrong Think police. Okay, so let's talk about that before the Wrong Think police busts in here. So this is the big problem. A lot of times people will sit down in front of their computer, in front of the canvas, in front of a piece of paper, and they're just not going to feel like drawing, or they're going to be, too tired to draw, or sometimes there's, things just aren't coming to mind. There's a surprising number of things that can make a person wind up just not drawing. And if we remember that ultimate goal of becoming a person who can draw, a person who draws a lot, not just a person who can draw a lot or a person who can do this and can do that. It's like, no, you do these things, right? It's like, let's stop talking about what you can do or what you wish you could do or what you just figure out what is it you want to be doing with the rest of your day, with the rest of your life, and what you want to be doing with yourself when you wake up in the morning. And so think of it in terms of what you want to spend your day doing, and try to remove all of the obstacles that prevent you from doing what it is that you set out to do. Uh-oh, here come the Wrong Think police again. All right, so all right, so that means there's various things. Let's just take them out of order. There could be like opportunities to draw. Sometimes people say, I don't have the time to draw, and my schedule doesn't permit it, and there's always these things. It's like, I just need time alone at home to draw, or I need some time alone to draw. And so sometimes you just don't have enough drawing opportunities. And we can blame everything on our circumstances and just wallow around in the mud and self-pity and feel good about ourselves. Well, feel better about ourselves, for being able to say, well, it's our circumstances to blame. But in the end, it just winds up with us not drawing. So number one is you have to break out of the circumstantial mindset, and maybe on the way to becoming a person who gets to draw a lot and enjoys it. Your goal in life becomes around changing your circumstances, around actually, doing whatever you can to break free of whatever is, keeping you from spending your time doing the way you want, spending your time to do what you want to do. And I guess, I guess we could call that a certain amount of personal freedom, freedom to spend your time to do what you want and just not be, pushed around by your circumstances. And it's very easy to allow circumstances to push you around. It's very easy to blame things and circumstances because it feels good. Like I say, it means that we get to shirk some personal responsibility. And I don't know, like I've seen people in some pretty dire circumstances somehow managing to do what it is that they enjoy doing. I've seen quadriplegic people who have no limbs, they got no arms, no legs, they got stumps. And, I've seen people like that becoming amazing CSGO players. It's like, hey, that guy has some pretty bad circumstances, but you know what? It didn't stop him. So that's kind of an interesting thing, is that sometimes I see people who are, in far worse circumstances than me, managing to do things, managing to achieve things that I couldn't achieve. And so I'm like, well, it's easy to blame circumstances, but I just look at those people and, man, well, it's like they kind of make me want to, step up to the plate a little bit more. So just keep that in mind, that there are always people around who have worse circumstances than you, and they never let that stop them from picking something that they can choose, be it being a world-class CSGO player or whatever, or if they want to become really good at drawing, and they just go for it. damn the torpedoes, they just go for it. So number one is a mindset of just not letting circumstances, just saying that, acknowledge your circumstances, fine, but then from then on out, your purpose in life has to be around defeating those circumstances, winning over those circumstances, so that you get to be the person who draws, be the person who draws and enjoys it. So first things is drawing opportunities, and that means you have to get a schedule together. And getting a schedule means you are taking all of the things that you have to do in a day, meaning things like eating, things like sleeping, personal hygiene, any of your obligations, and you are going to push those things around. You're going to make time for yourself, which means, there may be an obligation where at this particular time you have to do this thing, right? Find the anchors in your schedule. Find the things where you can't move those things around. All right. So sometimes things like bus schedules, right? We can't exactly we can't force the bus to, not do we can't force the bus to not run on a certain schedule. Okay. So find the anchors in your schedule, meaning the things that cannot be moved around, and then plan around the anchors. So everything, if anything, enumerate all the things that you got to do in a day. Enumerate them all, and find a way to, find which things are malleable. Find out which things are malleable, and then move those blocks of time around. And you're going to defrag your schedule. Have you ever seen a defragmenting piece of software before? And this is, I'm pretty sure years from now, maybe a decade from now, we're all going to be using SSDs, or we're all going to be on the cloud, and so no one will know what defragmenting is. But when you have to defragment your schedule, you've got to take all these little blocks of time and shove them into one spot, and give yourself these blocks of free time that you can use for drawing. You're going to create opportunities for yourself. So that means you've got to find where are the anchors that you can't move around, find all the malleable bits of your life, and also you're going to have to make some sacrifices. Sometimes you're going to say to yourself, man, I got to catch this amazing TV show that comes out at this particular, and I got to stay current. I got to, you got to ask yourself, which one do you want to do more? All right. And sometimes that means that having to miss out, being able to be the person who draws and enjoys it, means there is a sacrifice. Gosh, it's like, too bad. It's too bad. There's only so many hours in a day, and you're going to have to make a choice. And if you really, really like drawing more than you like these other things, then you'll know what to sacrifice. The goldfish will die, the hamster may starve, but just learn to. You're gonna have. It's not so much learn to sacrifice. It's like, no, it's like it's a commitment. It's a commitment, and I'm not sure how many people understand the difference between, some people just want to become involved with drawing, and they want to work it into their life, and they want it to be a part of their life, and then there's being committed to drawing. And somebody else had this great saying, and the difference between being involved and committed is, you can look at it like ham and eggs. Okay, so when it comes to ham and eggs, or bacon and eggs, the chicken is involved, the pig is committed. Okay, so if you really want to be able to spend your time doing a certain thing, you got to commit yourself to it. And committing it means making a sacrifice. And so the pig makes the ultimate sacrifice the ultimate commitment when it comes to bringing us bacon and eggs. So that's the thing. Schedules are a commitment of time, a commitment of your time. And just remember also, right? Like, everything you do in life requires a certain amount of time that you'll never get back. So when you're picking things that you're going to sacrifice, if you're not going to do a particular, if you're going to, give up on playing a certain video game, just ask, say, well, this is time I'm never going to give back, right? And if I understand that time is kind of this limited thing, and just, you're going to have to make that hard choice. And it's going to be hard. It's going to take a lot of willpower, a tremendous amount of willpower, I'd say. It means that you're going to need a lot of self-knowledge. And by self-knowledge or self-awareness, it means self-awareness is not being, well, let's not talk about the bad side of self-awareness or self-knowledge that people have, which is being all sensitive and being a bunch of crybabies. But it's more like when you're scrolling on Twitter or you're scrolling on your phone and you're like, damn, like I can't stop my freaking thumb from moving. All right, you got to be able to notice when the time is really going away. Whenever you look at your cell phone, whenever you're watching a video, you've got to become more cognizant of the times when you can't peel your eyes off of the screen. All right, it's a different thing if you're having a podcast and you're listening to it while you work, because at least you're working, you're doing what it is that you want, and like those things, it means that you're doing two concurrent things that aren't, obstructing one another. But you've got to be really cognizant of the times when you're scrolling on your phone and you just can't stop. All right, so that is what self-awareness is. Self-awareness is having a personal oversight. It's like you've got almost like a split personality, that there's a part of you that just starts to nag at you and says, hey, what are you doing? Right? So I think a lot of people don't have that. They don't have that personal oversight that tells them, hey, what am I doing? And there's times like this where I'll sometimes, like, I used to be a total spaz. I used to have real anger management problems, right? And there's nowadays, I can't tell you how I got from A to B, but I can tell you nowadays, whenever things upset me, there's always a side of myself that kind of wakes up and says, is this really worth my time? Is there something better I could be doing with my time? Like, this is especially with something like anytime I see stupid things on the internet, right? There's always going to be stupid. There's an absolutely enormous amount of stupid things on the internet to get upset about, and stupid things within politics to get upset about. And it's like you just have to be able to divorce yourself from that stuff and walk away from it. And it's not just that you're walking away from this stuff. You're walking towards what it is that you want to be spending your life doing. You're going to walk towards being the person who draws a lot and enjoys it. Remember that goal. Always. I guess that's why it's important to have a mantra, right? If that can be your mantra, if that can be, I'm doing A for B, I'm giving up X for Y. If you have that mantra constantly running, it will be something that always guides you, and you'll always have that direction. And this is a very important thing, is this is part of discipline. Discipline is not straying from your path, right? You get to pick, so you have the freedom to pick your path, to do with yourself what you will for the rest of your life. You have that choice. You have that ability to choose that you want to be a person who spends all his time drawing and enjoying it. That's the goal of your path. And so you always need to stay on that path. So that means that the path itself, there may be certain things which you have to do, right? Which are they're not up for discussion, right? They are, for example, scheduling your time. That's something that's not up for discussion, right? That means that is like a hard part of the path that everybody who gets to do what it is that they want to do, scheduling is a huge part of that path. It might be really comfy and warm in bed, and you gotta get up out of bed, and it's all cold, and you gotta get all dressed, right? And that is a hard part of the path. That's the path, the hard part that you have to get through. But remember what's at the end of the path, which is being the person who draws and enjoys it. All right, so always remember that there's going to be some parts of that path that you have to go through. So don't forget also that schedules, like there's also like a lot of that schedule. Some of the schedule can be, your obligations, and some of your schedule should also be in improving your preparedness. And the reason I'm going to talk about something like preparedness is because when you sit down and you get to draw and you're actually drawing, there's going to be two sides to you. There's going to be a manager mode and there's a worker mode. So I don't know how many people I think a lot of people have experienced worker mode. It's when they are sitting in front of the computer and they're doing a particular job and they just have to think about the job. And I think that schools do a pretty good job of getting people shoved into the whole worker mode. Here's the worksheet. Here's your assignment. You do X and Y and blah blah blah. Don't even think about why you're doing this assignment or how useful it's going to be later on in life or any of that stuff. Just focus on the task at hand and just go at it. That is worker mode, and worker mode is useful. Okay, but the problem is that I think we have a lot of people who are coming out of school who are made into workers, but they have, I think I would say that their managerial sense is absolutely crippled. And we have generations of people getting cranked out of the compulsory school education system who are just absolutely crippled when it comes to a leadership or managerial role. And the reason I say this is because I have taught at the college level. I've taught drawing and programming at the college level. I also, do a lot of, some podcasting, and I've talked to people, and I've also have a Discord where people come in and ask me about things, and just seeing, just generally, there's a lot of people who are kind of not knowing how to motivate themselves and how to be managerial. And like, look, we can blame this on circumstances of having to go through a compulsory education system, but it is unfortunately it's a part of being a first world nation. All right, so it's one of our first world problems that we have to deal with. So we have to regrow our manager mode, and that manager mode is going to be that same personal oversight, the personal oversight that says, well, what am I doing, and what do I want to do? Like, what do I want to do, and am I doing what it is that I have to do to put myself on that path and get to that goal? So manager mode is something that you're going to engage before you enter worker mode. So that means get yourself a good old-fashioned notepad, small one, hand size, little tiny thing that can follow you around, and have a notepad and write down a to-do list of things that you realistically think that you can get done today, the tasks you want to tackle, and you know what? Each one of those tasks is like a little achievement in a video game. Every time you complete a task, you get to cross it off. That's an achievement. And the next day, you're going to turn that page over, and you're going to copy all of the ones that you couldn't cross off onto that list. So it's not enough to just write them down once. You have to turn the page, and the ones that got crossed off you don't include on the next page, but you just write down the ones that you couldn't finish off on that page. So that way you update your to-do list every day. And in the morning, when you're sitting at the breakfast table, update that little to-do list. That's part of manager mode. Manager mode is knowing where you want to go in life, and what you want to do with yourself, and looking at all the tasks that you got to deal with. And it feels good to be able to cross things off the list. And at the same time, the things that you can't get done in a day, they will continue to nag at you, as they should. And you'll take them on the next day. And usually that will help you prioritize. So you need to work on your manager mode. Another thing regarding preparedness is, remember what I said at the beginning, right? Is that we sit down in front of the computer and we just can't draw what we want to draw, or just nothing happens. And so what I would say is you're just not prepared. You're not prepared to draw and enjoy it. Even if you're even when you're given the drawing opportunity, you're not prepared to take the opportunity. So it's another funny thing, is that opportunities are a thing that you have to be prepared to capitalize on. Capitalism. Okay, so you have to just, that means that you're not prepared, and there's a number of ways in which you're not prepared. And this is again where the self-awareness comes into play, where you're like, man, I'm just too tired and dopey. Well, hey, did you sleep well last night? No. What's your sleep schedule like? Boom, it comes right down to your schedule. Are you getting, are you living a mostly sedentary lifestyle like me, and not going out and not getting any exercise? I have an exercise bike. Right now, I'm starting to use that thing more because it's winter, because I go out a lot less. And I use it whenever I'm starting to feel kind of chilly. So if I start to feel kind of cold in the house, what do? Turn up the thermostat. That's one thing I can do. I can put on a sweater. That's another thing I can do. Or I can get on that thing and work my sorry ass on it, and maybe get some heat going, get my heart rate up. And you know what? It clears your head. So that's another thing, is that part of your, your physical well-being really does. It doesn't just affect, what you can lift and how far you can run. Like, it also affects your mental clarity when you sit in front of the desk ready to draw. And so, just maintaining a certain level of personal fitness, right? You don't do it, like I don't do it to look good, because I'm not trying to impress anyone with, my giant muscles. I can't even build muscles. But I do it because I want to maintain a certain level of personal awareness, which I just can't get if I'm sitting around all the time and the blood is just congealing in my veins. And right, I'm like I'm just a sitting corpse at that point. So, got to get the blood flow, got to get the blood moving, and have to take care of. You just got to take care of that personal fitness. So, there's that preparedness, and then everything else, all the exercises and drawing exercises. I mean, all those other things, working of skills. This is, as you can see, this is just like we're getting to the tip of the iceberg finally. All right, where we start to look at doing these exercises and trying to better ourselves and improve ourselves, and gives ourselves the abilities to do things. Like being prepared doesn't mean that all the obstacles are out of your way. It means that you're ready to tackle the obstacles, because there's always going to be obstacles. I think people are always waiting for that perfect moment, that perfect opportunity to draw, and the perfect opportunity will never come. I guarantee it. There will always be obstacles in your way. So what you have to do is you have to become a person. You have to prepare yourself to the point where the obstacles just seem to get smaller and smaller. But the obstacles actually stay the same size. The obstacles don't get smaller. What happens is you make yourself into a giant. You make yourself someone to whom these obstacles are nothing. And so that's why having a degree of physical well-being is very important, right? It means that when you're not all tired, the little things don't seem like that big of a deal. If you're physically unfit and you're always groggy and tired and you're not getting enough sleep and you're not giving yourself any exercise and you're always eating crap, crappy food, I should say, if you're not taking care, if you're not fueling yourself properly, those, even the small obstacles will seem like, the little pebbles suddenly become boulders. You are puny and weak. So, you have to make yourself into a strong boy or gal. And so you've got to prepare yourself, and a well-prepared person is someone to whom the big obstacles are actually not that big after all. They're manageable. They can be managed. And that's another thing about manager mode, right? Is that being a manager is about, and being your own boss means like the concept of being your own boss. There's going to be parts of you that say, man, I'm too tired. I just want to sit around and eat Cheetos. I just want to play a video game, right? Like that's part of you, right? And I say you have to acknowledge. I'm not necessarily saying accept or embrace. I'm saying you have to acknowledge that part of you gets to run the show a fair bit and wants to run the show. And then there's being your own boss is maintaining a certain amount of personal oversight and saying, you know what? I'm actually going to properly make a meal. I'm, instead of just eating ramen all the time, right? I'm going to do something to, make sure that I'm eating properly. I'm going to put that into my schedule, and I'm going to make myself do these things, right? And it's being your own boss really just means, you stand behind yourself you stand behind your weak self with a baseball bat, and you're constantly prodding yourself to go to work and do the thing that you're supposed to do, right? Because look, I'll give you guys an example, like just to make this relatable, is that, every time I sit down to make one of these videos, I've got a gazillion little nagging doubts that come after me, right? It's like I sit down in front of, like, I'm like, man, I feel kind of tired. Like I just woke up and I'm feeling kind of screw it. I'm gonna get on the bike. I'm gonna get on the bike. I'm gonna start exercising. And while I'm exercising, I'm writing down my notes. I'm writing down my notes of what I'm gonna say to you guys. And sometimes, again, because I'm on the cell phone, I can talk on Discord and maybe run a few ideas past some people and see if they're interested. And then when I sit down in front of this thing, in front of the computer, I'm like, okay, here's the problem. I'm talking about something that I haven't really talked much about before, and so it's going to be kind of hard, right? It means it's going to require my full concentration. And so, well, I don't think I can draw and talk at the same time. So what I'll do is I guess this will be one of those few times where I actually talk and I'll talk and record that separately from doing the actual drawing, and then I'll draw later on, and then I'll just stick the two together. Oh my goodness, it's like one of the few times in which I actually put sound and video together, recorded separately. And then there's the other thing where it's like you can see that is how I deal with that problem. right? That problem of not being able to draw and talk at the same time. So I'm like, fine, don't draw and talk at the same time, but at least get one of those damn things done, as opposed to, well, I guess I'll go play a video game now, or I guess I just won't record anything for people who want, who want videos. So then the other problem is, my mom is, she had to like mop the hallway, and I always feel kind of strange, like when there's other normies, when there's other people who aren't really 100%. Well, I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable. just my mom's out there. I don't want to talk, say these things while she's out there listening. So what do? Well, I guess I'll just no. I don't give up and run away from that. What I do is I find some music, right? Find some royalty-free music, and just had that pumped into my headphones. So I'm actually listening to this music as I'm talking, and you guys are hearing it as well. So yeah, it's the Neon Metropolis 1 hour mix number 5. Free use, no copyright, synthwave, new retro outrun from DGTV-Demon Gaming TV. I will include I will post a link to this video to the soundtrack in the description. Put that on and just drown out other things so that way I can think a little bit more clearly. All right, so this is what I'm saying is that there are always going to be, like, I've got a fantastic block of time right now. I've just had coffee. I've had my exercise. I am clear and lucid of mind. That is a fantastic opportunity. And things like, worrying about how other people in the house are going to make you feel, like, you have to just tackle those obstacles, do something about it, deal with it. And like I say, the worker mode, there's the worker side of you. I guess the worker side of you is going to say, oh, not everything's perfect, and right. And so then manager side of you has to come out and say, well, fucking here, I'll just deal with the problem, do this, do that. And that's, that solves it. So understand that whenever you can't do what it is that you want to do, it just means you're not prepared. You are ill prepared, and you're going to have to look at yourself and think, well, what's stopping me? And you got to think, am I just making these excuses? Or, you'll always, am I just finding excuses, I should say? And then whenever you say, well, I'm letting this excuse stop me from doing what it is I really wanted to do with my life. I mean, what a pansy, right? You gotta say to yourself those things. You gotta crack the whip. That's, again, part of that self-discipline. You gotta crack the whip and get to it, get to it, and learn to deal with problems. That nothing will ever be perfect. That the perfect opportunity will never come along. And when it does come, and even if they did, they only come along once in a blue moon. And if they only come along once in a blue moon, you're not going to be one of those people who gets to draw whenever they want. Like a person who draws a lot. You're just not going to be a person who draws a lot because you're waiting on blue moon opportunities. And then because it's a blue moon opportunity, it's a perfect opportunity. Now there's all this pressure in that, it's like you're not going to enjoy drawing when it's like, oh my God, it's like I have to make this perfect. I only have this one chance. It's like, no, that's just going to deep six that goal as well. So it's not just about knowing how to draw. All right. Don't look at it as me and I want to know how to draw. It's like, no. Become the person who says, I want to draw a lot. I want to draw, all the time and really enjoy it. All right, so I'll talk to you all later. Have yourselves a great day, and become people who draw a lot and enjoy it.